her husband and said, delete him. That's what they
Yeah.
are saying. The fact that her ex-lover, or no, not her ex-lover, her lover, started talking. I don't know what he's doing by talking to, I don't know who he's talking to. But I think it's a bad idea. From a lawyer's perspective, I would say, shut your mouth. Because he was basically trying to plead, saying it was all out of frustration.
Oh, now we understand. No, if that's the case, then we don't need to continue. You can go, sir. You can go, ma'am.
You can go. He says the following: everybody says things out of frustration, as he refers to Lindsay Shiver's text. So you want to basically send a message, a text to the lover saying, we need to delete this guy out of frustration. Allegedly. And the lover was also thinking, we're gonna get out of this hellhole.
Yeah, yeah,
Hey
yeah.
man, life is crazy, man. Life is crazy. RJ.
Yeah, life is crazy. And now it's going to be a case of trying to assemble as much evidence as possible to see whether or not, so how realistic the talks were, because the no action has taken place. Um, if it is true that they were planning, and that's what the police and the prosecutor is alleging, then that is a that can be a tricky case
Mm.
because nothing has happened. So you would need to prove that the preparations were, let's say, it was more than just talking. So if you had seen, for example, a plan and some like specifics, then that would have been more plausible than if someone just said, "Hey, we need to do this. We need to delete this person," and that's going to be a task for the police actually, um, because we're talking about an attempt, a
Mm-hmm.
possible attempt.
Possible. That it was pretty early. I think it seems like it was pretty early on
Yeah,
in the process.
yeah,
So how can you prove that it was frustration versus
yeah. Well,
a deliberate plan?
you would need to look at all the facts and circumstances of the case, right? So, for example, they flew to the Bahamas. When they flew to the Bahamas, uh, for example, was there a text beforehand? Was there a text uh, when he got there? Were they sending locations? If
Mm.
you the more you can prove that, because in the last show you talked about, you said that they took a picture.
Yeah, apparently. So with the sources were saying that she sent a picture of her and her husband and said, delete him. That's what they
Yeah,
are saying.
yeah. So if so that's the probably what they're investigating now, and if they can make it um, plausible, then so if the prosecutor can make it plausible that the planning was more than just expression uh, out of frustration, but it was an actual plan, then they might all get jail time.
Whatever happens, I think this is not good for her in that divorce case as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these allegations, even if she gets off, I mean, it's people will look at this like, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult because we need to check out, or at least in the family case, because you are saying, you are showing certain signs of
narcissism.
um, not narcissism, but you're not stable,
Mm,
right? So, and think of
mm.
it as well when you're
He
think of
proved
it.
his point.
So yeah, so think of it as well when you're talking about the kids, right? When the judge is going to take decide who will the kids stay at and all those type of things. What the judge usually does is check what is in the, or at least what the judge should do is check what's in the best interest of the kids. Now, you can be a you can be a bad husband, or you can be a bad wife.
Doesn't mean you're a bad.
That doesn't mean you're a bad parent.
Mother. Yeah.
So, but in this case, if as a mother you're talking about deleting the other parent, that is definitely not, that can definitely not in the benefit of the father of the kids. Apologies.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
not in the benefit of the kids, and that can have negative consequences because the judge might say, "Hey, listen, okay, it didn't work out between you two. That can happen. However, you are planning, or you are making jokes about deleting the children's father." Now, the it's I don't know if it's going to be at least, I don't know how seriously the judge will take it. It all depends on what actually, so what the evidence showed. But yeah, you do create something. You do create. She does make it more difficult for herself.
Can they pull evidence from that case into the family case? So can they show like text that the Bahamian police found? Can they show it also in the other case? Because they are two very different countries. I mean, we're talking about America, where the divorce case is happening, and in Bahamas, where the criminal case is being investigated. Can you do that? Move A to B.
Yeah, so evidence is evidence. Doesn't really matter where it's from. The only thing is that it needs to be collected according to, let's say, formal rules, right?
Okay.
So if you're talking about tapping, wiretapping, or spying, or those type of things, those are infringement of someone's right to privacy, and there are certain rules that you need to take into account when doing so. That's why you need to ask for approval by a certain body. But in the case of in the case we're talking about, it's a criminal case in Bahamas, and if the texts are released, then technically speaking, those are public. It's like public, or at least, even if it's not public, even if it's private, as one of the parties, I am entitled to have it. So if I'm entitled to have it, then I obtain it legally, and I can also add it to the exhibits for the judge to review.
Interesting thing you said, by the way, because one of the questions we had last time around is how did he find out she was divorcing? We were talking about patterns, breaking patterns, and we talked about how wives or husbands find out how people change their patterns and all that stuff. And apparently, since you talked about investigating and spying, Robert Shiver thought it was suspect the amount of time she was going back to Bahamas. He hired a private investigator to track down her Bahamian lover, bartender, and confront him before she plotted the deletion. So he was noticing that she was going back and forth. As the article says, before fighting for a divorce in a legal battle that would see him and Lindsay fight for custody for the kids over the property in Georgia and also in the Caribbean, they were basically, she was flying in and out. And he was like, I know you ain't like Bahamas that much. Last time you flew there. Now suddenly you're flying without me. She's like, not sure. And he decided to hire that private investigator, can they use that evidence in the case?
Yeah, there the it really depends. I'm not familiar with the U.S. Rules regarding uh, the collection of information, or at least what evidence, or at least the legal ways and illegal ways to obtain evidence. But I don't see that it would be such a big problem, actually, um, in this case. I don't think so, at least, because it's not the officials,
Mm,
the law officials that obtained information. It was the person itself. And that seems to me like more, and that seems more to me like it's a different kind of case. It's not a family law case.
mm,
They can say that he obtained it illegally, but usually the illegal, usually the emphasis is more on the on whether or not, let's say, law officials have obtained information in a way that's not correct. But if I hire someone to try to dig something out, yeah, I don't think that they will look at it that stringently. And say, if we're talking about the family law case as well, the judge is there to determine what's in the best interest for the kids. Now,
mm,
if you obtain information in a way that's not illegal, I mean, the judge might say, "Oh, I'm not going to consider." Even if a judge might say, and again, I have no clue how a judge, so what the exact rules are in this case. But if I have to imagine, even if a judge says, "Oh, I'm not going to take this information into account," the judge already has, with the knowledge that the judge has, the judge can reach the same conclusion just using different evidence. So, yeah, I don't think that's not going to affect or hamper the man's possibility to file the documents. But again, I'm not the expert in this field.